Life's unexpected twists and turns can make that happen. To those who stayed in touch, I appreciate it. There isn't enough time for the love you send. Seasons change, and so have I. You don't need to wonder why there's no time left. No time left for you. Picture a typical family. I'm the father, Trevor Fruiton, a 45-year-old guy with a receding hairline, in decent shape, but no six-pack abs. I could stand to lose 10 pounds and prefer contacts over glasses. I still don't need reading glasses. The mother of the family, Michela, is also 45 and has a slight tummy and a well-rounded figure, a look I prefer. She's an average woman, not strikingly beautiful or ugly, who wears glasses and insists on her full name. Then there's our 21-year-old daughter, Allie, a smart college senior who's gained some weight since her high school volleyball days. She's fiercely independent and vocal about women's rights, though she still relies on us. I'm the only one working, and finances have been tight. I didn't want Allie burdened with student debt, so she lives at home. But that doesn't mean Michela or Allie don't enjoy nice things. I drive an old F-150, while they have fancy luxury cars. Our home has little equity, and they funded their lifestyle with home equity loans. Our neighborhood is like many suburban areas, with occasional block parties. We're not particularly close to our neighbors, except for the neighbors next door, whose daughter Sally is Allie's best friend. After Allie started college, I felt lost. We had spent so much time together, and now there was a void. Even my volunteer work didn't seem to help, so one night I asked her if she was happy. I inquired, "Michela, are you happy?" She replied, "Happy with what?" I continued, "Your life. You've pulled away from me and lost your spark. I miss the time we used to spend with Allie. I guess I'm bored. How about us? Is there something I'm doing or not doing for you?" Michela assured me, "We're fine. I have no complaints. Why all the questions? I just want you to be happy. Maybe you can find a counselor to help you find balance and improve your mood." I pondered. "I'm not sure. I'll think about it." With a little chill in the air, I dropped the subject. However, 2 weeks later, Michela started weekly sessions with a life coach. You might think that I hoped things would heat up in our bedroom, but no. We maintain our usual twice-a-week intimate schedule. Are we normal? I have no idea. I've never discussed my life in bed with anyone, and I don't pry into my friends' intimate details. Mark and Cindy, our neighbors to the south, are in their 60s. Mark is not the handiest guy, and Cindy loves to bake, which has led to a few extra pounds for me. One day, I was working on Mark's sauna pump, and I overheard a conversation. They discussed, "Our sliding patio door is making that scratching noise again. Unless Michela is back from her mother's, it must be Allie. Haven't seen him in a while, so I'm sitting in the backyard gazebo. I overheard Allie's conversation. She mentioned, he's inside somewhere. His car is still here." I couldn't believe my ears as I heard her say, "God, Mom, you're outdated. Give Max a try. Sally says he's a wild one, and make sure you're satisfied. Maybe this is what you need to spice things up in the bedroom. You've been complaining to our daughter about our love life. That's just not right. I know you should think about it. By the way, Dad told me he's going hunting next weekend. I'll have Jeff invite Max over. He might be scrawny, but he's into you. Sally also mentioned that his size is just right for some fun." I was fuming, thinking, so my daughter is trying to set Michela up with Jeff's friend? You don't have to do anything, but since you've never tried anything like that, consider experimenting with Max. I was seething, and the next pause was due to my boiling anger. The BCH and her offspring are plotting to end my marriage. What did I do to deserve this? Okay, well, let me know. Love you too. Bye-bye. I was really angry. I'm fortunate I didn't injure myself while fixing that frustrating pump. Things were miserable at home all week. I went out of my way to annoy Michelle and Allie. It worked, and I spent most of the week in my office or out in the garage. I've also sharpened and cleaned my power tools. I didn't postpone my hunting trip, though. I had someone keep an eye on Michela's activities. Seeing pictures of Allie, Jeff, and a skinny guy entering the house around noon on Saturday wasn't a good sign. Allie and Jeff left around 2, and the skinny guy left at 4. When I returned late Sunday, Michela was trying to be affectionate, but I wasn't having it. While it didn't confirm anything, I noticed Michela was sitting strangely, with her legs crossed and leaning left more than usual. She seemed a bit uncomfortable. Later in the kitchen, Allie sealed their fate by playfully slapping Michela's behind, and they both giggled with fake coughs. I felt a weight on my chest, and I worried that the people I was hunting with might have exposed me to something. I decided to sleep on the living room couch to avoid Michelle. In the morning, I announced that I was going to the doctor with a fake illness, claiming I had trouble breathing. My boss had no issue with me taking the day off. My plan was to pretend to have COVID, which would give me time to move forward with my exit strategy. With accumulated sick leave and vacation time, I could take enough time off to reach our traditional Christmas Eve dinner. Announcing a COVID diagnosis usually keeps people at bay. Did I actually have COVID? I wasn't sure. I was fully vaccinated and felt healthy, but my heart was broken, and I wanted to part ways with 4 people while my lungs were fine. I checked into an extended stay hotel. There was no reason for me to live like a pauper. Michelle seemed relieved when I told her I'd be out of quarantine in time for Christmas Eve. She and her daughter called me twice a day. To avoid revealing my plans, I was polite, but pretended to be tired to get off the phone. I spent my time plotting revenge and making preparations, like updating wills, beneficiaries, and emergency contacts. Apartment hunting was challenging and drove home the finality of my decision to divorce Michelle and push Allie into the real world. When you're consumed by anger, all sorts of thoughts cross your mind. Most of them could land me in jail, which didn't align with my future plans. The idea of hiring an escort to trap Jeff came from watching a news story about a company that did the same to get rid of unwanted employees. It was a double-edged sword that would also hurt Allie, which, in my opinion, she deserved. Our artificial tree was lit up with blinking red, white, and green lights, and pine cones gave off a holiday scent. We gathered around the dining room table for our Christmas Eve tradition, which we had maintained for 23 years. The first 2 years were without Allie. Michelle had cooked a meal, which was now in front of us. Normally, we'd offer a short prayer of thanks, but not this time. I stood up to speak, but it wasn't going to be a cheerful toast. I began by asking Jeff about Heather, and as I did, his face lost color. Allie turned her curious gaze toward him. Allie and Jeff had been together since high school, and it seemed like they'd be together for many more years. Things were about to change, though. Jeff stammered, claiming he didn't know a Heather. I pressed further, mentioning the raven-haired beauty with ruby lips he was with last Sunday night. Jeff was as stunned as a deer in headlights. At this point, he resorted to denial, claiming he couldn't recall the name, but his words lacked conviction. I confronted him with an audio clip from my cell phone, where a voice could be heard saying, "OCK, Heather, you're awesome, don't stop. God, I'm CM again." After turning off the recording, it was clear that the voice was Jeff's. Allie went into a rage, accusing him of deception and demanding that he leave. Before Jeff could get up, I stood behind him and pushed him back into his chair. Jeff and I prevented Allie from attacking him. I instructed Michelle to take our daughter into the other room and calm her down, explaining that I and Junior were going to have a talk. Michelle escorted Allie out of the dining room and into the kitchen. It wasn't done quietly, as Allie's string of 4-letter words echoed off the walls. It only took a few minutes to explain to Jeff how things would unfold. He was to warn Max to stay far away from me, or Max would deeply regret his existence as a man. Jeff understood where he stood and what limited options he had from my perspective. A manila envelope moved, and Jeff agreed to do one last thing for me. I called out to the kitchen, asking Michelle to come back in with Allie. They both looked shocked and tearful. Let me explain how I got that recording. Jeff, her name isn't Heather, and I don't know her real name. She's an expensive escort, I must add. I hired her to seduce you and record the encounter. There's also a video if you'd like to watch it. Allie exclaimed, "Daddy, what the hell? You hired her?" I admitted, "I did, sweetie. How does it feel to be betrayed, stabbed in the back?" Michelle made a tiny noise, and Allie's eyes briefly darted toward and away from her mother. Both women were in tears. "Jeff, do you have something to say?" I turned on the video mode of my cell phone camera. Jeff stood up, took the folder in front of him, and then addressed Michelle. "Michelle Fruton, you've been served." As he handed the folder to Michelle, I wasn't sure if she would vomit or faint. She would likely do one or the other shortly after regaining her composure. The pine cones couldn't compete with the impact of Jeff handing Michelle divorce papers. While Allie and Michelle consoled each other in the master bedroom, I took charge outside. Allie's Audi, an early graduation gift, was loaded onto a carrier and driven away. Everything from her car was left in a trash bag on the front porch. Michelle's BMW followed soon after, but the difference was that her things were moved to a 23-year-old sedan, symbolizing our 23 years of marriage. My lawyer reminded me that I still had to provide transportation for Michelle. With our credit cards paid off and canceled, both of Allie's cards were canceled since I was the co-signer. I took another shot of bourbon. Cell phones were canceled as well. I had to give Michelle a basic phone with limited talk time and text messages. Allie received no such consideration. Both kept their iPhones with all the bells and whistles. In the garage, there was a for sale sign that I swiftly planted in the front yard with a few hits of my hammer. I couldn't actually sell the house yet, since Michaela's name was on the title, but I wanted her to know what our future held. Instead of listening to the Christmas music playing in the living room by the tree, I retreated to the basement. Sitting in the dark was comforting at times, especially when I heard the commotion above me. As they realized that none of their possessions were working, I was called some less-than-Christian names. Those names were mild compared to the ones I had been yelling in my empty hotel room while preparing for this day. "Trevor, we need to talk," was their statement. They speculated that maybe he went for a walk, noticing that his car was still at home, but my car was missing. They thought perhaps Dad had taken it, but he couldn't be driving both. They questioned the presence of an unfamiliar car in front of the house. Their phones weren't working, and they suspected he had canceled their service. They decided to go see if Cindy would let them use her phone. Calm returned to the house, but it was a tactical error on their part. I locked the entry doors. Now they were out of the house without working phones or credit cards. Both left their purses inside, so they had no identification on them. I felt no remorse when I shredded their driver's licenses. It may be petty, but I'm sure it will cause them discomfort as they try to rebuild their lives. Refilling my shot glass, I turned on the television and watched a few minutes of a cheesy feel-good special. Our situation couldn't be farther from the heartwarming story on screen. Sitting in silence seemed like a better choice. There was a commotion at the front door when Michaela and Allie returned. It was then that Michela's daughter, whom I no longer claimed as my own, realized what was in the trash bag on the porch. Allie shrieked, "Oh my God, this is everything I had in my car. Daddy got rid of my car. Michela wasn't buying it. He wouldn't do that. It's just not something he would do." "Well, Mom, maybe the reason your car is missing is that he sold it too. I'll be mad if he did. I loved that car." With the doorbell ringing every 2 seconds, it was hard to catch all of their conversations. Michela was furious. "Trevor, open this door right now. It's freezing out here," I shouted back at them. "Well, Mitch, the keys to your new car are in the ignition. That orange and green Malibu parked in front of the house is your new set of wheels. All your belongings from your old car have been moved over. I'm told the heater takes a while to warm up. It has a full tank of gas. Maybe you could offer your Estimax and stay at his place. He probably still has a thing for you." One yelped, "Lock," and the other said, "He knows." "Trevor, please let me explain." Michela made a feeble attempt to extend the conversation. A few seconds of silence passed, and Michela tried a sweeter voice. "Trevor, I know you can hear me. Say something. Merry Christmas. You better leave, Mishi. And take that woman with you." A few minutes later, the old Malibu roared to life. It sounded like it needed a new muffler, but I wasn't surprised, as the guy practically gave me the car to get it off his hands. It wasn't getting fixed on my dime. Without any fanfare, the two traders drove away from the house. It had been ages since I heard about anyone dying from carbon monoxide poisoning due to their muffler. Maybe I'd get lucky. Probably not. About an hour later, I noticed my father-in-law's phone number lighting up my cell phone. We've never been close, but we tolerate each other. After considering whether to answer, I let it go to voicemail. "Hey, Trevor, I've got a couple of upset women here. Thought you might be able to shed some light on the situation. Call me. By the way, Merry Christmas." I muted my cell and sipped some spiked eggnog. Gradually, I came down from my adrenaline rush. The blinking lights of the fake tree put me to sleep. The sun was shining on this cold Christmas morning. All the dishes were still on the dining room table, but the microwave did a good job of heating up my ham and cheesy potatoes. Ham and cheesy potatoes work any time. There were gifts waiting to be opened, but Santa left me nothing, as those gifts under the tree were meant to be opened after dinner. Had anyone even noticed? I hadn't given a single gift to any of them, and I didn't open theirs. Instead, I gathered my most cherished belongings. I didn't include any photos of the family. Any that I found were now scattered on the ground. It took Michela a few days to find me at my hotel. The sun had set, and there was a bitter breeze. I left the latch on when I answered the door. I half expected another poinsettia sales pitch for a youth sports team, but it was a pale-faced Michela without her usual makeup or done-up hair. Michela pleaded, "Trevor, please don't close the door." I didn't close it as I replied, "What do you want, Mishi?" She asked, "A chance to explain. Can I come in?" I firmly responded, "No." She continued, "Please, Trevor. Your neighbors don't need to hear this." I replied, "What part of no don't you understand? I'd be happy to explain it to you." Michela sighed, "Okay, let me start by saying how sorry I am. I can't explain my actions." I asked, "What actions are you talking about?" "Mishi, please," I urged. "Trevor, not out here. Let me come in and talk about it." She revealed softly, "Having closeness with Max." I reacted, "You had something with Max? Well, don't that beat all?" Her eyes widened as I continued. "You didn't know?" She admitted, "I suspected, but now it's confirmed. Actions have consequences. Wait, you were going to divorce me without any proof?" I replied, "Guessed right, didn't I? Have you found an attorney yet?" She responded, "I'm working on it, but we don't need a divorce. I'll do anything you want to save our marriage." I said, "A little late for that. Why didn't you decide to do anything to save our marriage a month ago?" "I know why. It's because you're selfish and think you're above consequences. You thought you could do whatever you wanted without repercussions. Did you? Tell me immediately. A day later? A week later? How many others have there been?" Michela recoiled at the venom in my voice. "That was the only time. You have to believe me. One stupid decision shouldn't doom our marriage." I pressed, "Which stupid decision?" "I count many. Planning to cheat might get you a reprieve. Cheating is a deal breaker. Hiding your cheating ensured no chance of reconciliation. Worst of all was involving your daughter, as I want nothing to do with her anymore. This is all on you. If you had kept your bedroom matters private, she would have never been involved. I hate you." Some of the neighbors were getting their kicks watching this drama unfold. I told her, "Trevor, I said I'm sorry. How can I make this up to you?" "You can't. I hope I'm better off without you. Maybe I will be, maybe I won't, but it's on my terms. Divorce your cheating self and move on, understand? Please, Trevor, I know you're hurt and angry, but please don't do anything for a couple of weeks. It was just one afternoon. What can I do to convince you?" I replied, "Just leave and never bother me again. Now, if you'll excuse me, halftime is over, and the bowl game is starting again. Thanks for stopping by. Not." I closed the door. Michela knocked and begged softly, but my noise-canceling headphones did their job. I don't know how long it lasted, but she wasn't there in the morning. 11 months later, I sat in my one-bedroom apartment, continuing the Christmas Eve tradition, alone by choice. A simple meal that I cooked myself after getting the hang of cooking. They say you get stabbed in the back, but in reality, it shattered my heart, ego, and confidence. My self-respect remained intact. Many nights I wondered if I overreacted. Not once did I agree with that. I became disposable, so I left. Case closed. My time in the limbo of divorce left me feeling defeated. I was often irritable, and my boss had to reprimand me for snapping at coworkers. As time passed, I withdrew from social life and became a recluse. My coworkers learned to keep their distance, and I focused on doing my job well. I skipped company parties. Friends attempted to set me up on dates, but I turned them down one by one, and eventually, they stopped calling. My self-pity seemed never-ending. I took up running, and the sight of my earbuds discouraged people from approaching me. Between my new hobby and cooking for myself, I needed to put on some weight since none of my old clothes fit. Occasionally, a coworker would compliment my appearance, but it rarely went beyond that. The divorce proceedings stretched out for 9 months, and our house sold quickly. Instead of monthly support, Michela received a substantial share of the proceeds from the sale. Allie and Jeff went their separate ways, with Jeff blaming me for setting him up with Heather. It's always someone else's fault I wasn't there with Heather. He was. And he was weak, like most men his age. A seductive woman can easily lead them astray. As for Allie, she left me angry voicemails, but I never returned her calls. Maybe someday I'll answer, but I wouldn't bet on it. I neither received an invitation nor attended her graduation. The situation was particularly challenging for Michaela, as she hadn't held a full-time job since our marriage. My attorney prolonged the financial matters as much as possible. Once the house finally sold, I repaid all the money. The court ruled that she should have been receiving maintenance, and now her comfortable lifestyle was gone. The same applied to mine. During some of the attorney conferences, Michaela tried to convince me that she had been incredibly foolish, but I remained stoic, leading to a few tears. Hate is a powerful emotion, and I couldn't seem to control mine. 12 months later, we continued the Christmas Eve tradition in my apartment. Macy, a friend who had been through a similar experience, joined me. No, we weren't in a romantic relationship. I wasn't ready for that yet. After we finished cleaning up the dishes, Macy led me to the middle of the living room, and we danced closely. At times I missed the warmth of a willing woman against me, but after about 10 songs, Macy wiped away a tear and left. We were both damaged goods. Allie's tone in the voice messages she left about once a month changed. She sounded apologetic, but I never returned her calls. My mother accidentally revealed that Michaela had moved in with someone new. I was surprised that my reaction was mostly indifference. I started making small talk with people again. Former coworkers avoided me, and new ones thought I was weird. Making friends was challenging, but I managed to bridge the gap with Macy, and we remained friends. In late January, I received a letter from Ali. I debated whether to open it, but curiosity won. The letter contained a short note and a selfie. "Daddy, I'm sorry that I did you wrong. As you can see in the picture, I'm pregnant. I was wondering if you could find it in your heart to include a grandchild in your life. If not, I understand. Love, Ali." The return address was a few counties over, and there was no mention of a husband. In the picture, I felt torn. I resented what she had done to my life, but I had always wanted grandchildren. It would be a few weeks before I responded. In the meantime, Macy and I parted ways. We both knew we were only there for each other to lean on. She decided to move far away and start over. With a few lingering hugs, she left my life. To keep from going crazy, I took up pickleball at the rec center. It's similar to tennis, but with different rules. Eventually, I played with people of similar abilities, which felt like junior high school. During one game, I accidentally hit Shannon, one of the players, and her friends teased her, suggesting I should kiss it to make it better. I blew her some kisses, and as we were heading out, she asked if I could buy her a soft drink. She said I was very quiet and shy. We walked to a nearby Jamba Juice and continued chatting. We learned about each other, and Shannon was a great conversationalist, unlike me. She eventually asked if I was seeing someone, and I admitted I wasn't, and I wasn't sure if I ever would again. Shannon inquired about my previous relationship. Did she die or leave you? I responded, she cheated on me, and I either couldn't or wouldn't accept it. It's been a few years, and well, I guess I'm not over it. Shannon then asked, what about you? Are you dating anyone? I replied, no one. She seemed surprised. Really? I elaborated, I go on dates, but that's about it. When was the last time you went on a date? Shannon shared, well, I haven't been on a proper date since we separated. I've had people over for dinner, but that's it. I asked, when did your marriage end? She told me, that was December, 26 months ago. Pretty sad, isn't it? I reassured her, not really. When I was dumped for a younger woman, it took me a couple of years to regain the confidence to try again. This entire conversation was making my palms sweaty. Shannon noticed. Let's change the subject, I suggested. Why did you start playing pickleball? Shannon explained, my self-pity was getting tiresome, so I thought I needed something new to do. I shared, that's how I got into it too. My friends convinced me, and I've come to enjoy it. How about you? Shannon said, yeah, I got a paddle, and playing is helping me come out of my shell. Well, I have to run. See you tomorrow. I'm playing at 4 p.m. I replied, sure, nice chatting with you, Shannon. She offered some encouragement. You too, Trevor. Hang in there. Things will only get better. That evening, I felt good enough about myself to respond to Ali. Ali, I'm willing to try. You and I will never be close, but I'd like to at least meet my grandchild. Please let me know when the time is right. Under no circumstances will I be in the same room as your mother, Mr. Fruden. As Ali showed in the selfie, I estimated a May or June delivery date. I'm not sure if Allie received my response, as I haven't received another letter from her. The next day at pickleball, Shannon was quite flirtatious, as were a few other ladies. It felt good. After hitting a particularly good shot, Shannon said, "You know, Trevor, you look really good in that shirt. I bet you look even better out of it." The women giggled as my face turned red. "Funny you should say that, Shannon. I was thinking that you looked really good in those yoga pants. I bet you'd look even better out of them, too." There was hysterical laughter as Shannon turned bright red. Then the ladies started chanting, "Take 'em off! Take 'em off! Take 'em off!" I obliged and took my shirt off. Shannon shook her head vigorously while wagging her finger at me as if I was in trouble. A few of the ladies whistled. As I put my shirt back on, Shannon mouthed, "You're terrible," at me. I blew her a kiss. After the games, there was some light-hearted banter among the ladies, with one of them joking about looking great out of yoga pants. Shannon patiently waited her turn. I engaged in a friendly conversation, and eventually, Shannon asked if I'd buy her a soft drink. I responded saying, "I was just about to ask you." Shannon playfully remarked, "Nice. Yoga pants, huh? Pretty proud of yourself, aren't you?" As we enjoyed our drinks, I mustered the courage to ask Shannon out for dinner and a movie, fearing rejection. Thankfully, she agreed, and having been out of the dating scene for over 27 years, I felt clueless, awkward, and scared initially. But with time, I began to relax, and my previous upbeat personality started to emerge. After several dates, Shannon suggested I spend the night. One evening, Shannon surprised me with a personal question. She asked, "Who were you thinking of when we were intimate?" I had to pause and appreciate you. I wondered what you saw in a person like me. I replied, "A mirror reflection." Our passionate connection grew, and we became more intimate with time. Shannon eventually introduced me to her family and grandchildren, which was initially awkward due to their protective nature. However, as time passed, they accepted me. In early June, Shannon cuddled up to me in bed and suggested celebrating our closeness. As the moment grew more passionate, I realized what she meant, and I shared my knowledge of Ali giving birth to a girl 2 days ago. Our passions flared briefly, and then we made love for an extended period. The next day, I sent flowers to Ali to acknowledge her new motherhood. A day later, I received an overnight letter from Ali, expressing her sincere apologies and the desire to reconnect with me. She mentioned her understanding of the lessons I tried to teach her and the changes she had undergone. She also mentioned her daughter, Bonnie, and the possibility of us reuniting. I shared the letter with Shannon, who found Ali's words sincere and asked me what I intended to do. I expressed my concern about the impact on my relationship with Shannon and received a warm hug and a loving kiss in response. Shannon emphasized the need to let go of the past so that our relationship could flourish. With Shannon by my side, I knocked on Ali's door, surprising her. We shared affectionate cheek hugs and entered her apartment. I held Bonnie and she didn't cry, reminding me of how small babies' hands and feet are. Shannon brought up Ali's marital status, and Ali explained that Bonnie's father was reluctant to commit. Throughout the evening, Ali and I kept our distance. Before leaving, Shannon urged me to express my love to Ali, and I returned to Ali's apartment to give her a hug and tell her that I still loved her. 6 months and a few weeks later, the traditional Christmas Eve dinner was hosted in my apartment, with Shannon, Ali, and me holding Bonnie. I delivered the Christmas blessing, and we all dined and exchanged gifts. Shannon and I spent the night at her house, marking a change in our relationship. 12 months later, we celebrated Christmas Eve at Shannon's house, and life had moved forward. I had found contentment in my life's new chapter,